was a musical genius who founded a band that shook the world like no other. He used his fame to promote peace and social causes he believed in.
He's someone that symbolized more than just rock and roll. He's someone who symbolized the peace movement. He symbolized challenging authority.
John Lennon was born on October 9, 1940. His father, Alfred, was a merchant seaman who saw little of his family. When Alfred and John's mother, Julia, separated, John went to live with his Aunt Mimi. He saw his mother frequently and was devastated when in 1958 she was struck by a car and killed. John was a mischievous child who didn't fare particularly well in school, but his artistic talent was obvious to his teachers.
Here's a young kid who really didn't have many ambitions, many opportunities for success, but had a dream of becoming a rock star.
At a church function in 1957, he met Paul McCartney, who impressed John by playing Eddie Cochran's 20 Flight Rock. John asked Paul to join his band, the Quarrymen, and a musical partnership that would change music history began. After changing the band's name to the Beatles, they honed their skills in the seedy bars of Hamburg, Germany. They also played countless shows at the Tiny Cavern Club in Liverpool. It was there they were discovered by Brian Epstein, who would become their manager. In 1962, John married his pregnant girlfriend, Cynthia. She gave birth to his son Julian in 1963, but his music career left little time for family life. After signing with EMI and scoring a few hits in Britain, the band was poised to conquer America. With I Wanna Hold Your Hand sitting atop the Billboard charts, the Beatles arrived in America on February 7, 1964.
First time he burst on the American scene in February of 1964, when he and the rest of the Beatles showed up with their outrageously long haircuts.
Thousands of screaming teenagers awaited the group at Kennedy Airport, marking the official beginning of the phenomenon known as Beatlemania.
Beatlemania was caused by a combination of raw talent as well as being at the right place at the right time.
The Beatles were unquestionably the most popular band in the world. Lennon, referred to as the Smart Beatle, wasn't afraid to share his strong opinions, and in 1966, he made an offhanded comment about the Beatles being more popular than Jesus. The statement caused an outrage in the press.
When he said that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. He later tried to explain away the remark, but the damage was done. People began burning Beatles records. They began calling into radio stations saying, "Don't play Beatles music."
He set off a controversy that angered millions of people throughout the world, particularly in the United States in what was called the Bible Belt. There you had ministers and Christian radio broadcasters holding rallies, encouraging young people to bring their Beatles records down, to burn them.
By the late 60s, the claustrophobic cocoon of Beatlemania was taking its toll on Lennon and the rest of the group. Although they were still enjoying unprecedented success, his relationship with McCartney was becoming strained. In 1968, after divorcing Cynthia, John married avant-garde Japanese artist Yoko Ono. The intense relationship between John and Yoko added to the tension within the Beatles. The media watched the couple's every move, and their bizarre antics regularly made headlines around the world.
The relationship between John and Yoko was both a very public one and a very private one. He said himself that he really changed upon meeting her. He changed artistically, how he saw himself as an artist and where he wanted to go. And I think anyone in retrospect can see that he really changed and became an even better person after meeting Yoko Ono.
With Yoko by his side, he used his music like Give Peace a Chance and other unusual methods to bring attention to causes he supported. In 1969, the couple held 2 bed-ins, where they promoted world peace by spending 2 weeks laying in bed.
John Lennon's most memorable moment is easily the bed-in, when he and Yoko Ono in the Amsterdam Hilton on their honeymoon decided to stay in bed as a way of protesting the Vietnam War.
When he and Yoko Ono decided to stay in bed, he really draw the world's attention to the cause of peace. And they sang that great song, Give Peace a Chance. It could show that music and rock and roll can mean more than just partying and the counterculture. It could really shape the world for the better.
In April of 1970, the Beatles called it a day. It saddened millions of fans, but for the 30-year-old Lennon, it meant freedom. As a solo artist, Lennon scored hits like Instant Karma, Mind Games, and his signature anthem of peace, Imagine. While Lennon was popular with the counterculture, the Nixon administration saw him as a threat.
John Lennon brought his anti-war movement into the American political scene in 1972, when Richard Nixon, who was president at the time, was running for re-election.
On October 9, 1975, John's 35th birthday, Yoko gave birth to their son, Sean. It was a second chance at fatherhood for John. For nearly 5 years, he disappeared from the music scene to be a stay-at-home dad.
Where he withdrew from society and just wanted to be home with his kids and his wife and embracing the domestic side of himself.
In 1980, John was set to make his triumphant return to music with the album Double Fantasy. On December 8, 1980, after coming home from a recording session, he was shot and killed in front of his apartment in New York by a deranged fan named Mark David Chapman.
Mr. Lennon died as a result of multiple gunshot wounds of the chest and left shoulder.
News of his death stunned fans around the world.
People react with a sense of horror and disbelief. We weren't that far removed from the death of a lot of other heroes, like John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. It was difficult to believe, hard to accept that someone who was such a person of peace would go down with a bullet. It was just hard to take.
When John Lennon was killed in December of 1980, the world was in complete mourning. Here was a man who only called for peace and love, and he was gunned down outside of his apartment in New York City.
When you think about John Lennon, if you want to know more about him, all you have to do is slip in one of those CDs, listen to his music, and suddenly he's there again, and it feels like he's still around, still communicating to you from inside the room. So his legacy is very much present in his music.